Michelle Jones and Pamela Ann. Welcome to Awaken. We are here today doing another episode, and we're going to talk about kids.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Kids.
Kids, parenting.
Yeah. Pamela's had a few. I've had a few.
Yeah. We each had 4.
Yes. As a matter of fact.
Yes, we absolutely have.
True
so
story.
between that, with 8 kids and lots of other experiences with being kids ourselves at one point.
That's right. And I was in a family of 6. I mean, well, I was a kid then, so it's a little different, but I mean,
right. I was
both
in a family
dynamics.
of 5 kiddos, and so lots of amazing dynamics in those things. We've learned a lot from those experiences, but we've also learned a lot just in observing life and what works and what doesn't work. And we thought maybe we could be able to share some information with you to kind of cut to the chase and help you with those learning curves as well, if you're interested in that or not. Or you could go through suffering.
That's always fun.
Suffering is totally optional. Suffering is completely optional.
And we don't realize that.
Yeah, a lot of times we think as parents, wow, we've got this heavy load on our shoulders that we've got to save these people and make sure they're safe and move all the stones out of their path and the boulders included and the tree trunks and everything else, and that was not what it was meant to be.
Yeah.
It's not what it was meant to be. So, you want to start? Would you like me to start?
You can start, because I think we're talking about your kids.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I had the blessing of having some friends with me this weekend. In fact, I just barely left the mountains, came down to be with Michelle, and it was such a wonderful experience. I just totally loved it. My girlfriend Shauna, and she's in some other videos, invited her sister. And her sister ended up bringing 2 of her daughters, and I didn't know this until they pretty much showed up at my site. And I thought it was just going to be these 2 sisters coming up, but then there was 2 more younger people that came. Very, very different personalities, these 2 little girls. Very, very different personalities, which is not uncommon actually, because if one child, and this person had like 7 kids, right? But these were her 2 youngest kiddos. And a lot of times kids they'll say, okay, I'm going to be the one that is the book learner. And then so someone will say, okay, well, they've got that position. I think I'll take the one where I'm going to be the sports person. And somebody else will take, well, I'm going to be the princess. And somebody else will do another one, so that they can each make sure that they've got their own position in the family dynamics.
Right.
So this youngest daughter was just filled with joy and light and everything. And the next daughter was more internal, and she was you could tell she was a deep thinker. She was very much an artist, and she really didn't like being around a lot of the activities that were going on. And it's really interesting because I'm wired like each one of those girls. I love being very social and very out and among the activities and whatnot, but I also like to have my quiet time, my time for introspective thinking and for doing artistic things and for connecting with the divine. So I really got where these people were coming from. I really understood, and my kids were wired the same way. I mean, they're very dynamic in all of those areas as well, so they've taught me a lot. One of the major things that they taught me was that I wasn't responsible for taking care of everything that they desired in their life. They were. And that if I tried to butt in and intrude into that to make sure, I wanted to make sure they got all the best of everything, they weren't happy with that. And I can remember my oldest daughter telling me as a 2-year-old, Mommy, I do this myself.
Yeah. My kids have said that to me before too.
Have they?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
They have. Well, and it's important too. I've thought about this a lot. All of our children have their own path. They're going to do their own thing. They're here for their very special and specific purpose and
their life mission.
Yeah,
and we're not privy to it.
Sometimes it's our job to get out of the way.
Yeah.
And allow them to do what they need to do. And sometimes that's even pain for them, and that's hard as a parent
But
to watch.
how do they learn to know that they can be successful
That's
if
the
they
only
don't
way.
go through these things?
That's the only way.
How do they know that even if they feel it's something, that they still are really successful in so many other things? You know, how do they get their confidence that they can do it if somebody else is making all their decisions for them?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, I already know.
Before they leave home.
Yeah, my youngest son, this is hilarious. Well, I think I kind of felt bad, but
But not that bad.
No, he's the baby. He's the baby. And I didn't even recognize this, but his kindergarten teacher comes up to me and she's all, "Does Colt ever do anything for himself?" And I was all, now that you mention it, no. I mean, not enough. Because it was easy to do, and he had siblings. It's like, hey, will you go
They're
tie
taking
his
care of
shoes,
it.
please? Will you go grab this for your brother? Go help him get dressed. You know, just the
Yeah.
stuff you do as a mom.
Oh, yeah.
And I was glad she mentioned it because I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize I was doing that. You know, the older ones were bigger, and they're the big kids, and that happens so easily with when you, you know, start stacking up your kids like that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, but it is interesting because they really do build their confidence in the things that
They can do.
are able to do and what you entrust in them. And when you give the message that they can do it by saying, go do this, even if they struggle a little, it's sending them the message that they can.
Right.
And then they believe in themselves because they
Yeah.
know that you believe in them.
Before they leave home.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if they don't have this under their belt, then they're going to be so timid and like not having that confidence.
Yeah.
It's so imperative that they have. I have, and I love that you told that story because I had a cousin that was the fourth born in a family of 6 children, and she didn't speak because why? You know, she had all these older siblings, right? And at her, I think it was her 3rd or 4th birthday, pretty much the first thing she said was, "May I please have another piece of cake?" And they say, "How come you're talking now?" I mean, they thought she was impaired. She was brilliant, brilliant. But she says, "I didn't have to. You guys all did the talking for me." How many times do we go in and we just, you know, plow through everything for somebody, and it's really imperative that they have their learning curves.
Absolutely.
And the joy of this overcoming things that they are supposed to be having in life. And with our children, we had them working and driving and doing all these things around our home and stuff, and paying for their clothing and everything else. I mean, we paid for a certain portion of it, but pretty much we let them start doing all these things, and we didn't give them everything. We literally did not provide everything for them, so that when they did move out and they started having opportunities for like apartments or staying with friends and things like that, going to college and whatnot, that they could really appreciate. Because a lot of times you don't appreciate what you've had. Like, I've been up in the mountains for 6 years, and for years I didn't have electricity, I didn't have the running water, I didn't have internet, I didn't have any of these things. I didn't have hot and cold, you know, I didn't have the hot water or anything for showers and stuff like that.
That sounds terrible.
I figured it all out. I figured out how to be able to have all those things. But I have to tell you, I really appreciate a refrigerator. And I really appreciate air conditioning. There's so many things that we take for granted. And I have really flourished. And I know that I can be able to live in a tent and be happy. I've always said that I could do that, but I actually did live in a tent, and I was profoundly happy. But a lot of things, and I've lived in like mansions, wonderful, wonderful homes. It's certainly not that my husband was an excellent provider for us, but it's like I love the wilderness. I just totally love it, and I love being connected to the earth and to nature and things like that. And that's not what's going to, having stuff is not going to make it or break my happiness. That's for certain. So, yeah. So anyway, I can remember we took our son. Okay, so this basically this mom, I took her aside that had these daughters, and she had told her daughter that, okay, there's no internet here, because when she had come before, we didn't have those things. There's no internet, there's no electricity, there's nothing. So you're just going to have to go with us. We're going to go paddleboarding on the lake. We're going to do these other things, and that's not interesting to her. Her youngest daughter, oh yeah, she's running through clouds of butterflies, and she's just so happy, and she's enjoying herself, and she's looking at me and saying, "Can I just live with you? Can I just live with you for like a month?" And I said, "You can come and be with me as long as you'd like to, as often as you'd like to, for the rest of your life." And she's just like bursting with joy and happiness. And the other little girl was just like, "Oh." So I took the mom aside and I said, "I think you're trying to teach your daughter not to be using some of these convenience items and stuff. But everyone's idea of a vacation is unique and different. And it's really important that she not be brought up here and like put through torture when she can be lounging on these lounging beds under umbrellas. The weather was perfect, everything was perfect. We can build fires, we can have like some really fun times, and she can be watching movies if she'd like to, and just enjoying the hummingbirds and the beauty around her. I mean, we're painting rocks and stuff, and she's an artist. She can just be enjoying her life instead of feeling like she's being tortured, like drug up here and tortured." And I said, "I realize you didn't know that we had these conveniences now, but we really do." So I said, please, if you feel like it's okay, I'm not telling you how to raise your child or anything, but why don't you share that with her? It could make a big difference. Because otherwise she was just hiding in the car. That doesn't sound to me like any fun for like 3 days. I don't know about you, but it didn't sound fun to me. Because I could feel her, and I'm, like I say, I was wired like the first daughter, the youngest daughter, but I was also wired like this other girl, and I would feel like, like these older people were bossing that person's freedoms around, right? And not realizing how torturous that was. So the mom told her this, and you could viscerally feel a shift in this person, and her relaxed, and her laughing, and her enjoying herself, and snuggled up with her mom and her sister and her auntie on the lounging bed, and watching some movies and laughing together and building some sweet memories.
That's great.
I like that so much more.
Oh yeah, just letting our kids be people too.
Yes.
There's something that I
honoring them.
really feel I've learned a lot as a mother when I would start to talk to my children about my feelings and why I was doing this, not because they had to, not because I'm the mom and I said this is what it is, but saying, you know what, I'm doing this because I love you, because I'm worried if I don't have you do this thing, then I'm concerned that when you grow up you will, feel this way or not have this or not do that. And I found that when I shared it in that way, it gave them like understanding, and they could identify with me then as well, like I'm a person and they're a person, and I feel like that works really well with children. Through my experience, I feel like they just really respond to that so well, and the drill sergeant, because I said so, because I'm the mom, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
And it builds up a lot of resentment, and they don't feel valued or respected or treated, like a person. I mean, we wouldn't like that either. I mean, think about it. If someone talked to you that way, you wouldn't like it.
Right. I remember as a child really looking forward to leaving home. As a very young child, really looking forward to leaving home and developing some very strong life skills. Because I could tell that the adults in our home were miserably unhappy people that were taking out their anger and frustrations, well, on me for certain. And they'd come in and the door would slam shut, and you'd never know when you were going to get another beating or something, and you wouldn't understand why, because you were doing your very best to serve these people as much as you possibly could, and it was never going to be good enough.
Right.
So I remember in high school moving out and living out of my car and being blissfully happy, because I no longer was being subjected to that kind of treatment. And we're not really supposed to break our children's spirits.
Right.
Now, I know my kids, if they were talking to you, they'd say, "Well, you broke my spirit,"
Well,
But there was, there's a limit when you have children jumping off your roof, climbing up radio towers, jumping out windows, out of school and everything, and you're like, oh my gosh, okay, there's certain laws, cultural laws, and things that they'll take your kids away if you don't have some parameters of things that are going to be okay for them, because they're going to be like, you got to have some parameters of safety for these kiddos.
Smart kids are harder to raise.
Oh, my kids are geniuses. They are, and I was always clapping to try to stay a little bit ahead of the situation, but knowing that there's no way I could.
Yeah.
But I can remember definitely going down the street one day and saying, I was driving down the street and talking to the divine and saying how I started to form the word worried. I'm so worried about this one particular child. And the divine instantly coming to me and saying, you are not to worry about that child. Release him to me and let me mold him into the individual that they are to be. Because if you worry about them, you will destroy your health and your relationship with this child. And I said, well, then what am I supposed to do? And they said, you're to love him. And I said, well, I can do that. And they said, that's what you're supposed to do. Because this child at the time was around 16 years old. Well on their path of whatever it was that they were going to be learning. And they just said, release them to me and let them become the person they're supposed to be, because we will help them be stripped of pride, ego, and embarrassment, and they will become a great leader of youth. So I was like, well, because they know their life mission. They created it with the divine. And that I did what I was supposed to do, and that's what they said. You've taught them correct principles. Now let them learn to see which ones really serve them and which don't serve them, which ones are interesting to them and which are not.
Right.
Because you all have to develop your own belief systems, and it may not be the ones that your parents hold.
Right.
Just kick back, chill out, relax.
And
So
it's
that's
okay.
what I did.
And it's okay if our kids are different than what we think or expect. And,
Yeah.
they don't have to be what we
Yeah.
were thinking they could or would or should
Yeah.
be.
And each one of my kids are very, very strong, will-powered kind of
Mhm.
people. So, yeah,
Yeah.
do what you like, but it's going to be fruitless if you try to force anything upon anybody. It doesn't work. Just live your happy life and let your life. Words don't teach. It's your life actions. It's people's actions and what their experiences that really teach them.
Right. Kids don't do what you say, they do what you do.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Hey, so if this is valuable for you, Michelle, did you have anything else you'd like to share?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Share with others. It might be could really help them with what they're searching for. And consider subscribing below and hit that bell button so you'll always be included. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.